I love you too, son. God couldn't have blessed me with two greater sons than my God. Done a lot of things in my life that I'm proud of, but I can't be any prouder than I am you guys, your kids.
Thanks for listening to today's episode of the Wayne County Chambers podcast, For the Record. We want to say a special thank you to our sponsors. Our title sponsor, Sport Durst of Goldsboro, our premier sponsor, Atlantic Casualty Insurance Company, our presenting sponsors, Professional Data Management, Goldsboro Builder Supply, and UNC Physicians Network, and our community sponsors, Butterball and the Housing Authority of the City of Goldsboro. And for the record, we're glad you're here.
What's up, young man?
Hey, how you doing, son?
I tell you what, you're looking good.
I don't know about all that.
Yeah. Hey, thanks for being here.
Yeah, good to be here with you.
Yeah, so for those that don't know, when they're watching this, you're my dad. So full disclosure, you know what I mean? But if you will, introduce yourself. Who are you? Who do you work with? Where are you from? All those kinds of things.
Well, my name's Scott Satterfield. People that I grew up with know me as Dennis, but people I work with know me as Scott. So it's kind of how it is. I live right there in Irwin, North Carolina. Grew up there, as a matter of fact. Have moved a couple places over my lifetime, but found my way back home.
That's where you've been really your whole life.
Pretty much, yes, sir.
And then grandmother and granddaddy, they live there too.
Yes.
So, you know, that's kind of rare these days for all of that to be true all at the same time. But it was true, you know, for you and for me, because I grew up and the whole time in Irwin, and then, you know, my grandparents, so, you know, my parents and grandparents. So. All right, so Irwin, North Carolina, you've lived there most of your life. Tell me who you work for, and then tell me what your title is. What is your job there?
Well, I work for Carlie C's IGAs.
Uh-huh.
I'm the meat director for them.
Okay, what does that mean?
That means you look after how many stores they got, try to buy for those stores or direct them where to buy from.
Right.
And just help your stores out. You know, you guys that you got out there that's doing a job every week to keep the company going, so forth like that. You're their liaison, so you try to make sure their job is easy, and you try to make sure that they've got what they need to do that job, and so that's pretty much what I do.
So they cut meat, right?
Yes, sir. They cut meat.
Cut
yes,
meat
sir.
And kind of fill a case of, in the meat department. If you go to the meat department of a grocery store, every one of those meat departments, you're kind of the boss of those meat departments, right? Ish.
Well, yeah, yes and no. I try to have those guys, and we get them on a plan to where they kind of run their own shops. But I've got two guys out there that's up underneath me. I've got Eric and Eric Allen, and Eric's been with me a long time, and Chris Campbell, and they're two of the best specialists I got out there. So I've got some people out there that help me. Then all my guys out there and gals out there that works. I've got a couple of ladies that run meat markets for me. And
equality, baby.
You evolve over the years, you know, and that's kind of what we do, you know,
Nice.
is evolve over the years.
Well, how long have you worked at Carlie C's?
I've been with them since 88 or 89. It's kind of hard for me to remember, but it'll be 35, 36 years.
That's a long time.
That's a while.
That's a while. So tell us about the early days, because there are a lot of different IGAs. It's a grocery store. It's a grocery chain, but it's an independent grocery chain, right? So take us through some of those earlier days as you remember them. Like, what are some of your memories of those days?
Well, when I first went to work with them, they just had a few stores.
What is a few, roughly?
I'm thinking they had 5 IGAs at the time, And we were on a venture down there at Buy for Less in Fayetteville on Skybow Road. And when I entered in working with them, that's where I started at, was running that store. And worked with a family operation. Difference between Carlie C's and a lot of other places, it's a family-run operation. Mr. Carlie C and Ms. Joyce, they started that operation out there, and they've just evolved over the years. Some of the finest people you ever meet. Kind of changed a little bit over the years because we've got a little bit larger. You want to stay the same as much as you can, but you do have to evolve when you do change and get bigger.
Yeah.
So we've got a lot more people working for us now, a lot more stores to run.
How many stores do y'all have now?
We've got 31 stores at the present time, plus we've got our meat plant, and I kind of oversee that meat plant too, try to help them with that. Got a collared operation we run out the plant down there. I'm sure you know about that.
I want to talk about the collards just a second, a little sidebar. So these collards, Uncle Bob's collards, right? Ain't that the name of them?
Yeah.
And every year around the holidays or close to the holidays, what's the cycle? What's the season?
Well, you've got to have a frost, and we just cook cabbage collards. So we've got to get them processed, get them cooked. We still do it the old-timey way. We cook them in a pot. We take
a big pot.
A big pot. Matter of fact, I've got five or six of them now that we run. You have to get your ham meat and your fat back and all that boiled off to where you get your seasoning right for your collards, and then what I call your juice. I call that your juice. You get your juice to where you can use all those pots to cook your collards when you get ready to cook collards. So usually on the weekends, I'm cooking the juice off to where we can just rock on with the collards.
But the funny thing is, you cook the collards. You're not the only one, but I'm saying you literally are involved in the cooking of the collards.
I'm involved in it from getting them in the back door till they go in the pack. I get the farmers to grow. I like to appreciate all our farmers and people that help grow and do over the years. One time Zach was growing for us, but Zach's in the hardware business. They've got a hardware store now, Ace, right there in Dunn. And
that's Zach McClam.
Zach McClam, that's Mike's son, Mr. Carlie C's son that runs the company, his son. And he still helps in that operation some when he can, but he's trying to venture out and make that Ace hardware work for him. So
you do the collards, and obviously that operation has gotten bigger. But I guess I think back to those because it's really evolved over the course of my lifetime.
Yeah.
And so you went from being a very small footprint to being kind of it's all over North Carolina now, at least North Carolina, and I guess
we got one store in South Carolina down there in Bentonville, but the rest of them are in Carolina. We got one right on the line down there in Laurinburg, and we go down there to Washington, Tarboro, back that way, up towards Graham, Robbins, stores in Fayetteville,
Goldsboro. That's your favorite, I know, right?
Well, all of them, I like all of them, but there's some that I help get ready to go. And
what does help get ready to go mean?
That means getting them reset, getting refrigeration ready to go on them, getting your shelves up, getting your lineup up, getting everything ready to go to open that store down there. And I'll say one thing about Goldsboro. Being I'm here and I'm on the cusp of Goldsboro, it was one of the greatest places we ever went for the people to receive you.
Right.
From the time I never had any problems with the people down here, they wanted us to be here. And the community has just supported us so great down here.
Yeah.
And I can't say enough about that from the beginning till now.
Sure. It's been a good place.
Yeah, and it's great people. Eastern North Carolina is one of the greatest places to live, to work, to do.
Right.
I love North Carolina. I'm a North Carolina man.
Yeah.
I support North Carolina products. I got some good friends that make those products and do. And,
and
I love those people. It's kind of like family. We're family with the place we work and the people that
your vendors,
vendors and our brokers and all those people they're like family to us.
Do you think that comes from the fact that you guys were a small company for so long? I mean, don't you think that some of that identity of those relationships being deep really comes from that place of, you had to rely on people differently for a long time than it may be a little different now, but in so many ways you establish those relationships, as a lot of small businesses do, with the people they do business with.
Well, business is like a elevator.
Uh-oh.
You meet the same people going up as you do coming down.
Mm-hmm.
So don't ever forget who you are, and don't ever think you're greater than what you are. Best thing I can tell you to do is always be humble when you're in business, and always partner with some other people that can help you, because you will not be able to be successful without not only your people, but your vendors and all your local people, your farmers, all of that make up the food industry for you. And then you've always got to remember you're out there to serve the customer, the end customer that's coming in that store, and to try to provide them the best quality product you can at the lowest price you can. And serve them all. Yeah,
and it's interesting because I've heard you say before that the grocery business never stops.
No, it's a 24/7 operation. Even when you're closed, you've got things going on. We've got maintenance people and refrigeration people out here working on stuff at night and so forth. And, my hat's off to them. I've been out here when it's right at 100 degrees, and we've had 100-degree days. And you're sitting up on top of a building in a room out there, and it's about 120 in that room, and you're trying to get something back to running like it needs to run, So there's a lot of aspects of that the general public never sees and don't really need to, because all they need to really do is to be able to be comfortable in your store and be able to go buy what they want, and you have what they want. Right. And that's the main thing. That's my job, is just to try to satisfy them.
Gotcha.
Durst Volkswagen Mazda of Goldsboro is proud to support Wayne County Chamber of Commerce. Family owned and operated, Sport Durst knows the importance of keeping local money local and supporting the community. We put our customers first with the area's best pricing, best trade-in value, and best selection of new and pre-owned vehicles. Come experience the Sport Durst difference, where customers and community come first.
So, Mr. Carlie C, who was an awesome man,
one of the finest men I've ever worked for in my life. Yeah. I've worked for a lot of folks, and with a lot of folks, but he was one of the best.
Fun fact about him: he did not finish high school.
No, Mr. Carlie C was one of those guys that's a unique guy. That if he self-learned his everything, Right. We worked on refrigeration. There was a time we didn't have a refrigeration crew out here. And pretty much we worked on it ourselves and learned ourselves. And then, a lot of times your stuff's going to break down. It's not going to break down 5 days a week where you pick up the phone and can call somebody and be out there. Weekend, when you're the busiest, Friday afternoon late to Sundays, that's when your biggest problems are going to come, and you're going to have to figure out a way to overcome them. Mm-hmm. So if you can't get somebody to come, you learn how to work on it yourself.
You got to fix it one way or the other, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I always remember Mr. Carlie C was around the things. He was around the stores. He was around the work. He even if he wasn't literally holding the thing, doing the thing, he might be holding the flashlight, or he was just always around. I remember that about him, But he was smart. Just because he didn't finish high school, he was a brilliant guy.
If he was to come in a store and we were working on something, say we were working on a compressor back there, and he had a white dress shirt on, which he wore most of the time, no telling how many of those he's had to throw away. He'd get over there and he'd have grease all over him from one end to the other, and they'd be there trying to help you get that thing back going. Mm-hmm. Remarkable man. Took him, learned the computer. Never had the formal education, but less than one of the smartest men you'll ever be around. And, you know, some people were blessed with common sense.
Yeah.
Good common sense.
That one didn't land on me. You know.
Well, I'm here to tell you that man had good common sense.
He did.
You know what I'm saying? And he could fit in with any crowd. And I guess that's why everybody liked Mr. Carlie C so good. And he was you know, I have seen him upset a time or two, but very, very seldom. He was a guy that when he was under pressure, he didn't squeeze under the vice. You know what I'm saying? He was calm. He would have a plan. Well, what do we do now? What do we do now?
Yeah.
How do we fix this? And, you know, that kind of grows on you. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
That kind of grows on you. And
it becomes a cultural thing, I think.
Yeah. And Ms. Joyce, she was ideal to be with him because she was one of those people that she knew every customer that come in the door, speak to every one of them, check them out and carry the groceries out to the car. And, you know, people forgive you for a lot of things if you know their name.
Yeah, that's true. That's well said.
Give them that service like that, you know, and you own that business, you know. So they built a lot of business by just who they were and how they treated people.
But don't you think, I mean, there's something to be said, like I know that the company's changed over the years. And I'm sure, depending on who you talk to, some would say absolutely for the better. Some would say, well, maybe not so much. One thing that you can't do is know all the customers anymore, right?
No, I tell you, I have more people that know me than I know them because you know, one thing I can't remember 10 or 15 years back, I'm not in stores every day, but, you know, we run our trucks. We do truckload sales, and we do there, and I'll go to these stores, and I'll see people that'll come up to me and say, do you remember when you did this for me or that for me? And somebody just come hug your neck and say, hey, you know, good to see you.
Sure.
It's just one of those type of things. You don't find that many places where you go to have business and do business with, you know, people. A lot of people are not that close with their customers and so forth. And, you know, we still try.
Yeah, I mean, like even to this day, I mean,
we try to do that right now to this day.
But I
want my guys, if somebody wants something, if they've got it and they want it cut a certain way or they want something cut, they'll do it. If they go to a competitor and they won't cut their meat because they can't, because they don't have a saw or whatnot, because a lot of them don't even they're not fresh cut. They bring that into us. We'll cut it for them. We don't charge them for it. And we just say, hey, give us a shot at what you can.
Yeah.
And try to build the business a lot of different ways.
But as you scale, and the reason I'm asking this is because there'll be people who watch this and they've gone through a very similar progression in their business, where they started out as a smaller business, a family-owned business, family-run business. And over the cycle of life, there's a generational change. Perhaps maybe the business has been sold and it's become a more corporate business, but it takes on a different structure. It takes on a different life. For a business to scale, it has to happen, right? So it's not that it's bad. It's just that it's the nature of something that when it evolves, it becomes different. And I would say that that's kind of happened a little bit there. I mean, while at the same time, I think you guys have really maintained a customer focus. Is that fair? I mean,
well, here's what you'd like to do. You'd like to be able to wrap your hands around it and be at every store and make sure everything happens.
Yeah.
But the bigger you get, the more you can't do that, and the more you got to have somebody else that you try to teach them that culture.
Right.
And then the culture evolves and goes on. And, you just can't wrap your hands around all of it 100%.
Right.
But you try to get the spoke back in when the spoke gets out of the wheel, you know. You make sure the spoke gets put back where it is and say, hey, this is how we roll.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
We do things.
This is how we roll.
And that's really cultural, right? That's how you'd establish how you're going to do things, right?
Yeah, it just evolves according on what you're doing. We do a lot of things. We've got a lot of different programs out there that we run in our meat departments that a lot of stores don't run. So you got to teach all your people how to run those programs and everything. And, sometimes, we struggle getting help from time to time and so forth, but we always overcome that and try to get back on course and
seem to manage.
Always have.
Manage. So you still, to this day, probably even including last week, probably on pace this week, you still work like 80 hours a week.
Well, probably most weeks I'll be close to that. Yeah, I probably work about 7 days a week most days. It's been two or three years since I took a week off, so getting through the pandemic and everything else. By the way, we did have a meet in the pandemic. We didn't ration it. We didn't do anything. I was fortunate enough to have been at it long enough to be able to get to the right people to get the right stuff and be able to keep our counters with meat in them and
now that
sounds try to look after our customers.
That sounds like a veteran talking, right? Somebody who maybe...
Well, that's somebody that's made a lot of contacts over the years, and
you were able to take advantage.
And been able to call this one, and if I call this one, they would say, Mr. Satterfield, if you'll call him, he's got some, he'll let you have them. Mm. And it's just, sometimes it's not what you know, it's who you know, Mm-hmm. So it's that way on a lot of things, and just making a lot of relationships over the years, over the last 30-some years where I've been at. I've seen a lot of people. I've been through generations of salespeople, you know what I'm saying? They grew up and they've retired.
Generations of vendors too,
Generations of vendors, so forth. I've seen different people take over different businesses.
How do you work 80 hours a week and make that work?
Well, it's not so much now physical work you do. It's just trying to keep everything caught up that you have to do to, to keep it all tied in and then make sure some things roll, Yesterday I was moving a truck to Ramsor to get a truck up there to roll that, and then I carried our truck up there Friday to where they'd be ready to load our truck to load onto the big truck the day they've opened that truck up at 8 o'clock, and I'm sure everything's running smooth, but you've got a lot of people. I've got Mr. Harold Carver, that's MDI retail specialist. He helps us with all our trucks too, so we've got a lot of people. MDI lets me have a truck to do our truck sales, and they'll move the truck for me, and then I just have to make sure it's set in place to where I want it, and we're able to operate out of it. Then my guys are on cue, but we've been doing it long enough that we've got that down to a science as much as you can,
So you don't have a college degree?
No, sir. I graduated in 78 from Irwin High School, and it's not even Irwin High School now. It's Triton over there. So I'm a high school graduate.
High school graduate. I think it's safe to say that you would consider, or most people would consider, I'm not sure what you would consider yourself. I think you would. I know I would. Blue collar. Is that fair?
Yeah, I would say that would be fair.
Yeah. You're part of the labor, right?
Yes, sir. I'm proud of it. I mean, to tell you the honest truth, I'm proud of it. I've always been like a Graham type person. I've never tried to outdress my people or make them think my people any better than I am or anything else. Never asked anybody to do something I wouldn't do. So, I mean, it's not about being in charge. It's about getting the job done and getting your team right to do the job,
Do you think, I don't want to go too deep into this, but do you think that the United States of America values hard work, labor, blue collar?
Well, it's all according on who you're talking to. But you still got to have that blue collar worker to get it done, We've got a lot of tools out here to use that's brought us a long ways. We've got computer systems that can order for you. As long as they're all up and running and somebody keeps them adjusted, it'll order better than me and 4 more that's been in it all our life. You understand what I'm saying? But some things that won't do.
And I remember you used to tell me when I was younger, and I've always remembered it, and I wish I would have remembered it. I wish I would have taken it to heart so much that I had committed my life to it in some respects. But you told me that one day plumbers and electricians and HVAC guys are going to be very rich because people don't do their own stuff anymore. And they're going to be very rich because nobody was going into those professions. And it turns out you were absolutely correct. Right? Wouldn't you say that?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You say that you're right.
Absolutely.
Because those guys, I mean, the trades, I guess, is what I'd say.
Yes, if you're not going to higher education, I would always advise a young person to get herself into a trade, in a trade that they enjoy doing. One thing about trade people, somebody that's a dedicated trade person, they like fixing stuff, like making it do like it's supposed to do.
Yeah.
I'm one of those guys. Yeah. Like to make something that run like it's designed to run.
Yeah.
Do what it's supposed to do. Yeah. And there is a lot of self-satisfaction in being able to do that. And today, you're going to get paid well to do that. But that's, it's not a 8 to 5 job. Those guys are working after hours. Those guys are working
in all kinds of conditions.
They're kind of like us. They're working when everybody else is off.
Well, and you talked about the pandemic. There were a lot of people who couldn't go home. There were a lot of people who did not have the luxury. I guess you would have called them essential workers, but they did not have the luxury of being remote. They did not have the luxury of being at home. They had to stick with whatever it was they were doing. In fact, in some cases, particularly when it came to grocery and food, you had to be almost even more there, right? I mean,
we never closed our store. We never shut down the meat market for a day. We run our plant every day. We were committed to serving.
That's wild.
Our customers, our communities, committed to serving.
Yeah.
Committed to serving.
Yeah. So, some personal facts, fun facts about you. You got married at 20.
Yeah.
Had a kid at 22. That would be me.
That'd be you.
Hey, man, you're welcome, So I want you to take me through what that was like, having that happen so young. So you're working class, you've got a high school diploma, and there's a lot of people out there who's got a very similar story, particularly of a certain generation and of a certain age. And I just don't think this is always appreciated, and that's why I want you to talk about it a little bit. So take me through that whole process of being that young in that situation. What was that like?
Well, first of all, God works in your life where you're with him or where you're not. He's always working. Your mama, we met, we kind of hit it off, and I would do it all over again tomorrow.
Yeah.
One of the best gifts God ever gave me was my wife and my family.
She is crazy, but
she's Debbie. You will not change her. She is determined, but she's one of the best helpmates you'll ever have in your life.
Right.
And she's a great mom too.
Yeah.
And grandma too. And
I think she likes being a grandma better than she likes being a mom.
Yeah.
I'm not going to make her say it. You know what I mean?
Well, there is a difference there. I would like
my kids better than me too,
Well, you got the responsibility of raising your kids, and there's no book to raise your kids with, so you just do that as you go along.
Figure it out.
Hope everything turns out right.
Yeah.
You know, I had a great mom and dad, and when me and Debbie got married, we didn't have anything. You know what I'm saying?
So I want to ask you.
I bought a 10 by 50 trailer, and I was working Winn-Dixie at that time, and put that trailer in Broadway there. And in the wintertime, you cut the heat on, and in the middle of the night, you cut it off because you'd be afraid you'd burn the trailer down. And then sometimes if it got real cold and you cut it off, your pipes would freeze, you know what I'm saying? So
rocking a hard place.
We didn't even have a stove. We used a 2-burner eye that we plugged in, and we cooked our food on. I was working 3 jobs to try to get us back out of that. And your mama was working also. And then, you know, I've cut meat all my life, so I cut meat ever since I was 12, probably about 12, 13, before you were even old enough to do it. And back then, you put sawdust on the floor and you had the wood blocks, and all your beef come in, you broke it down. Your chickens, you cut them up if you got any parts out of them. And they come in a wood crate on ice and everything like that, and you waited on every customer you got. Your hot dogs and everything, you didn't have a pre-pack case and everything out there, you bologna and everything. You sliced that and got that for everybody. But you learned a lot then, you know, and then it was, you know, you had to be customer-oriented then because you had to speak to every one of them and wait on every one of them. And you had to learn how to sell it all. Because if you got your beef in like that, if you run T-bones on this week, you couldn't come back 2 weeks from now because you had to sell the rest of that beef off because it all come in quarters. So you might have to run. You really have to run something else, and then you'd have to run your grinds and everything to work and make all that come out. So it's meat business has evolved over the years a long, long ways. And we have evolved with it. And
I want to go back right quick to the trailer.
Yeah.
I want to know what it's like to be poor. If you had to describe to people who, because there'll be people who listening who are, and then there'll be people who listening to this who aren't, and they don't know the difference.
Well, when you're poor, you don't know the difference. Because if you're happy and you're trying to get where you're better, you don't even realize you're poor. You do when you go to try to buy something that you can't buy and can't afford, and then you work and then you get it. And then I remember, you know, having to struggle to be able to make two car payments, and whatever payment out to your house, and to make all your ends meet and do everything like that. But you keep evolving, and then you learn how to be thrifty and stay thrifty, because if you go through something like that, you learn you haven't got to eat the very best. You can survive off of something better. I never forgot where I come from. And I serve the same people as where I come from. Right. So I don't have any problem doing that, because I was there, and I was right there with them. And
because I think there is a correlation there. Like, I do think it matters that the people who were working in Carlie C stores for years were working class, regular, everyday people, serving working class, regular, everyday people. And the connection was more than just a business connection. It was what you don't see when you see the very best businesses today, like the ones that resonate with, like even in Wayne County. It's when people tend to have that relationship with their customer, like you're talking about. But I think that there's something to be said when someone has lived a similar life as the people that they're talking to. They speak the same language. They have the same fears, the same concerns. And do you think there's any validity to that?
I still think that you've got to help the community you serve and the person that's standing in front of you, and you got to relate to where they are. You ain't got to try to. You can't make them relate to where you are.
Right.
You've got to be able to relate where they are. Some people are just worried about being able to feed their family, look after their stuff, and they'll say, and you just guide them the right way to go for the right things to get to where they can make their ends meet and try to provide a deal for them that they can do it. Now, is it the same thing that a man has arrived and is going to buy? Not necessarily. But can they eat it and enjoy it and sit down and not even realize that they're poor? Absolutely. Poor is just a state of mind. It's just a place till you get to the next place. But you've got to be willing to get better from where you are to where you want to be. And you have to evolve like everything else. You have to evolve. You have to evolve from being a small company to being a big company. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because you've got to make the small company work before you can
That's right.
the other. And then you get your model to where it's working for you. And then you do that. And we've always tried to serve everybody, try to be there for every customer that wanted to shop with us. We didn't try to carry items to discriminate or to leave somebody out over here, like some companies do today. They just want a certain clientele shopping with them and all of that. I think when you've got everything right, to me, when you've got everything right in the grocery business and probably any business you've got the people that your older clientele that shop with you for all these years. And then you've got their kids that's come along, okay? Black, white, Hispanic, doesn't really matter. All of them have to eat. All of them have to have the same services. So here's what you do. Is when you can see all of that mix of people coming into your store, you may see a gal that goes by 3 grocery stores and comes shops with you. She's driving a Mercedes or she's made it. She's
some
there.
Fancy thing.
You asked her why you still shop with us. She said, "This is my store." Mm-hmm. Now I'm gonna tell you that when you get that, that's where you've impacted people's lives enough, and you've done something for them along life's way that they remembered enough.
They're loyal.
They're the loyal customer. Mm-hmm. And I will say this about our company: we have some of the most loyal customers that you'll ever find anywhere. I love our customers to death. It doesn't. Some people say, but I have to thank my family because, you've got, when you serve people, when you have to serve them, you have to give up a lot of time with your family.
Right.
So you sacrifice that, and your family sacrifices that as you're doing that. But it is rewarding to be able
to
make something evolve, to make something evolve, to
build something.
To build something.
Yeah.
To build something.
So what do you wish you could tell that 22-year-old? If you could tell him anything, what would you tell him? First of all, first thing I would want them to know is that they need to have some manners. And then a rule of order about them. And then a good work ethic. Be honest. And they can do anything they want to do. They can go anywhere they want to do. If they'll work hard enough at it and go, they can go wherever they want to go. That'll be up to them, But they'll have to listen, follow instructions, and a rule of order. Because without a rule of order, you got chaos. And when, in the United States today, we've let
we hadn't really hand-raised our kids on the generations coming up today. The televisions have done it, the school systems have done it, and everything else. Well, young people today, they can do anything you want on electronically. But you need to teach them some life lessons, teach them what it is to do a good, hard day's work, and appreciate the people that provide things for them that they can't provide for themselves. You need to have appreciation of the people you've got. I appreciate people that's got an education that can get things for us and make things easier for us. Sure. But I still appreciate that guy that's out there that's
humping it, busting.
Yeah, getting it every day that makes it happen in the hard places, you know. So,
so what's next for Carlie C's, and what's next for you?
Well, I'm gonna have to turn it over to somebody else because in just a little while, because I'm gonna do some things I want to do, but I want to leave it in good hands, and I'm working to get to where I can do that now. You know, I'm hoping in the next year or sooner, but I wouldn't leave them in a bad place. Sure. And, you know, I love to work, but there is a time for all things. The Bible says there's a time for all things. Mm-hmm. And my time is going to be in a little while, if I live and good Lord blesses me long enough, and spend some time with your kids and Chris's kids and do some things with y'all. Go to more things than I've ever done in my life. Spend time with Debbie doing things with her, and just enjoying life.
Cutting some grass.
I cut some grass. I can't believe it. You know, I'm going to talk about cutting grass. I cut the grass down there Thursday down there. And your mama said she had Eli cut the grass. I cut the grass to where she couldn't cut the grass. Didn't have to cut the grass. And y'all cut the grass again. The only place that didn't have grass cut was where your truck go. Come on. Because I kept mow underneath the truck.
All I know.
I don't even know where Eli could see how to run the lines to cut the grass.
I don't think I know anybody that takes the grass cutting situation more serious than you do.
Well, grass got to be cut, son. I mean, you know, make your place look good. You know what I'm saying?
There's something about walking outside after you've cut the grass to it and then just kind of take it in.
Well, I don't know. I guess Mom and Daddy, they kept their yard immaculate. You know, I never kept a yard like Mom and Dad, but sure. I guess I got a little bit of that from them. You know, Daddy, he took and got a yard of the month probably 4 or 5 times. The last time they went to give him the yard of the month, and Daddy was 80-some years old when they went to do that. He told him to go give it to somebody else that hadn't got it. He'd had it enough.
Oh, that's a boss move right there.
That's what Charles Satterfield did, you know. Daddy.
He was something.
Daddy was something else. You know, in your core roots, you know, you don't ever forget your core roots. I love my family. I miss my brother. Lost my brother a couple of years ago. Still got my sister. She lives about 2 blocks from me. When I retire, maybe we'll have more time to spend together because she lives about 2 blocks from me and hardly ever see her unless we're doing something or something going on. Yeah. And just a lot of things, but I think family.
Well,
man, also talking about that young guy, he's got to be very conscientious of his family and making the needs of his family and looking after his family.
So speaking of family, I've got one last question. I think it's the most critical question. I want to know who your favorite kid is. You're on the spot right now. I want to know. Me and Chris have a wager right now.
Yeah. You know I'm not going to answer that question. That's what I'm not going to answer.
You're not going to answer?
I'm not going to answer it.
I told Chris, I said, here's what's going to happen. Daddy's going to say, well, I ain't going to answer that. But you know Chris is my favorite.
That's you talking. That's you talking. That's not me talking. That's not. I love both of them. But I'll tell you something about kids. And you know it yourself because you've got them. There's not any two just, you don't get, they don't come out the same mold. You think they do, but they don't.
Right.
They're different as night and day in a lot of ways. And I guess it's the hardest thing to do because what will work on one won't work on the other. And you got to figure out what will work with them and what kind of makes them tick. And it's the same way with the general public and your associates that work for you. You got to get to know that person, know how they tick and what they do, to know how to motivate that person and get to know them enough. You can't get their full potential out of them unless you get to know them enough to know what. And, their likes and dislikes. Sometimes I watch sports or find the final score of a game because I got a certain guy over there I'm going to be with tomorrow, and I know that's his favorite team, And then, then you just, first of all, you can always cut the ice with that. You understand what I'm saying? You can say, hey, your team didn't do so good last night, or your guys won last night.
Come on, man. Why you got to give them a hard time like that?
Yeah.
That's good.
That's just
well,
part of it.
Well, I appreciate what you've done, and I think I wanted you here because I wanted you to talk about what it means to be blue collar, because I think that it is underappreciated. And I think to this day, there are people who make all of our communities and all of our country go, and nobody's patting them on the back. Nobody's paying them probably what they're worth or whatever you might say, but they still do it because of the pride of the thing, and I just wanted to say thank you for what you've done and what you continue to do. Thank you to Carlie C for being a great company, being a great Wayne County company, a Wayne County Chamber of Commerce member, and thanks for being a great dad. I love you.
I love you too, son. I will say this. God couldn't have blessed me with two greater sons than I got. I've done a lot of things in my life that I'm proud of, but I can't be any prouder than I am than you guys and your kids. I will say that if you always do what's right, always do what's right, that you'll always be all right. When everybody else is doing something else and everything in you, everybody else is saying, hey, you need to go the easy way over here and everything else, you just stay that course and say, I'm going to do what's right. I'm going to do what's right. I'd advise that to do anybody that does business, anybody that does that, and to be honest and to be straight up about it and treat people like you'd like to be treated. But you'll be able to survive most anything. I'll tell that to you. I'll tell that to my kids. I'll tell that to the guy that comes in there and I go in there and he said, Mr. Satterfield, first time I've seen you. I said, son, how long you been working with us? He'll tell me, and I'll say, welcome on board. And I'll tell him, he said, what? I said, you work hard, you be honest, and you do that. I said, you work your way up in this thing. And, I'm blessed. I go out of those stores and I see those people and I see them get success, and then I see them, success is a thing you've got to be ready to let somebody go to, even though they're a valuable employee to you. And you want to hold on to them. And they've got something over here that's better for them over here in their life, and they could do. Here's what you do. You want to wish them the best and hope and pray for them that they reach the success they need to do. There's a lot of people that's come up to buy groceries with us or done something. Lawyers, doctors, all different kind of different professions out here that started running cashier, running that.
Chamber of Commerce presidents.
Yeah. different things. All
right. Well, hey, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for being with us today.